Okay guys, so you're starting to get a feel for how you want to blog, like what type of blogger you want to be. So let's start talking about topics for your posts. And I'm going to go over these topics according to the different types of blogger. You can mix and match. Some of these will be a overlap. But this should get your brain going and get you some ideas, and my goal is that you can be able to utilize this to sit down and create a 3-month plan so that by the time you're done with this class you have 3 months worth of ideas for what you're going to blog about. And that way that kind of keeps you ahead of the curve. You know where you're going. So let's get started on that. Okay, so we remember the types of blogging styles that there are. You have the informative, the story blog, the review, and the entertainment blog. So I'm going to start with the informative. There's a whole lot of different ways in which you can find topics to write about as the informative. So one of the first things that you can do is create a research book list. So you want to, as you're doing research on your book, pull out the books that you're using for your research and recommend them in a blog post. And for every book that you're doing, do the same thing, or every short story, or if you run across a great book that's research based, that people can utilize if they enjoy things on history or things on criminology or things on mythology, whatever it is, whatever informative type of blogging you're doing. If there are books that help with that kind of research, make lists of them. Do 2 or 3 and tell people about them. It's sort of like a book review, but it's more of just a summary. You want to just put a few books down on a list and pull in their book covers and talk about them. Another thing that you can talk about on your blog posts for the informative style is a movie or TV critique. So this would not be a review. There's a difference. What you're going to do is you're going to look at the way something is portrayed in a movie or television show, and you're going to critique it from your point of view, whatever it is that you're writing informatively about. So again, the majority of people who do this are going to be mystery or history. And in those 2 areas, you can definitely, if you see a movie and they're not wearing the correct clothing style for the time period, or if the television show, a police drama, isn't using correct police procedure or technique, you can do a critique on that. Or even if they do a great job, maybe you want to critique them that way. So those are some things that you can do with movies and TV, and I always recommend that people put a little bit of movie and TV stuff into their blogs, because the majority of people out there are watching TV or they're seeing movies, and a lot of times they do research online and put those into the Google or Yahoo when they're looking for information. And that way, if you've written some posts about these topics, you're going to get people coming to your blog to find out what you wrote about that television show or that movie, and then they're going to see that you also have all this other information and become fans of your blog. So movie and TV information, I think, is really important for helping to build your visitors to your site, and to get people from places that you wouldn't normally have gotten them if you're just targeting readers. Another area of informative is, that's something that people know a lot about or have seen quite often, is the how-tos. So you want to create lists of how-tos in terms of especially if you're writing an informative blog that's in the nonfiction area. Say you're doing kind of spiritual or self-help guidance, that sort of thing. You want to do a lot of how-tos, things that are short and can be broken down into 5 ways to do this, 10 ways to do that, how to get this done in your life. But you can do the same thing with some of the fiction blogging as well, but it doesn't translate quite as well as with the nonfiction. Tips and real-life application. This is really great if you have, again, crime-fighting type of stuff. You're doing a mystery novel. You can actually show how different criminal proceedings are actually worked out in the field with police. You can have tips on how to utilize information, like if you're writing historicals, you can do tips on proper dress, proper etiquette, and then how that can be applied. If there's a lot of people who do role playing. There's a lot of people who do what do they call it, with reenactments. So you might want to try putting things together for people who do things like that, tips and tricks, ways that they can apply historical perspective in their role playing and reenactment parts of their life. Process walkthrough. Oh, that's a great one, especially for the mystery again, that you can kind of take them through the process of how a detective goes through, what are they thinking, how do they kind of go through the moves when they're going through an investigation. You can even do a process walkthrough of what your writing is like, or in terms of, I wouldn't say, I wake up in the morning and I struggle with my computer, and not that kind of process, but the process of where you do research and how you find your information, and then the process of thinking it through, how your character is going to behave based on maybe the historical implications or the procedural implications of if it's a mystery, that sort of thing. So you can take people through processes. Another informative area that's really kind of fun is speculation and theory. So one of the things you want to back that up with is that you already have quite a few blog posts where you can show that you do a lot of research and that you take a lot of time in this genre or topic. Once you have that established, you can do speculative or theoretical posts, maybe saying that if you're in historicals, you could make some informative leaps for particular pieces of history or people. Saying that we know this about that person, so maybe there are some other things that we can assume from that. So you start making speculation about things that happened in history. The same thing with mystery and crime novels. You can go into one of the blogs that we looked at has the cold case files, so they can start speculating on who the murderer was and what actually happened in the scenario, and come up with certain theories. So that's always fun. That's a little more interactive and less dry than some of the other informative styles. But you want to make sure that you do have backup, that people can feel like they trust that you've done your research. So you want to back it up with a lot of information. Features and interviews. So you want to break up some of the monotony that kind of goes through the informative cycle with things that are a little more personal, like interviews with experts in that field. Makes people feel like if you are interviewing an expert, that actually puts you at the ranking of an authority blogger, that you have reached a place in which the experts are comfortable coming to you and giving a talk or a interview. So it's a nice thing to do if you're building up your authority, your name within the field, is to start doing interviews with experts in that field. Start contacting people early on, or start connecting with them on their blogs by commenting on things, so that they get to know you, and then eventually ask them if you can interview them on your blog. works really effectively. And then finally, you want to have listings of things, information for people who are fans of this topic or genre, like conferences, upcoming classes that you've heard about, conventions that are coming up. Keep them informed. They'll appreciate it if you do, so that they'll keep coming back because they know you have the information about what's going on in this genre or topic. Now, one of the things you want to remember, and we're going to do this for each of the blogging styles, is that you want to include some self-promotion. You don't want to do it all the time, but you want to have them in, I would say, at least every 5th blog post or so. You want to put in things about yourself. It may not be the whole post. You may just be writing something about a critique, that you're doing on a movie, and you could say they did it this way, but I find in my books, the book that I wrote or the story that I wrote, and then you could list what it is, that I did it this way, so that you're integrating your promotion seamlessly into your blog posts, so that your site becomes, you're blogging for a purpose. You want your blog to be, something that your readers enjoy, but you also want, the whole purpose of it is to promote yourself as a writer. So make sure that you're putting together some information on your books. You can every once in a while post your status on where your book is. I'm halfway done, I'm 3/4 of the way done, I'm starting to think about covers, things like that. Feel free to put those in there. That's more than appropriate as long as you're giving them plenty of that other information. Again, probably once every 5th blog post is about right. You may need to ratchet that up a notch right as you're going into your launching of your book, but in general, that's the rule of thumb, is about once every 5. So you want to include things like information on any book tours that you are doing, where you're going to do signings, things like that. You can also integrate things on your research, the research that you've done and how it applies to your book. So that's another informative. You're talking about the research you've done in a particular area, and then you finish up the post by saying, and then I've applied it to my book this way. So it's a nice way to integrate that it doesn't feel like a commercial when it actually kind of is. Again, with the conferences and classes, you want to talk about ones that you've gone to, your experiences there, and then again, how they applied or how you were able to utilize that information towards your own writing. And then finally, you may want to do a couple of posts. You don't want to do this very often, but on your process. How did you implement the things that you've learned about whatever it is that you're informing people about? For example, mystery, crime, criminology. How did the things that I learned about criminology are now applying towards the writing of this particular book? Or how did the research that I've done on history, how did it apply? How am I applying it to this particular character in this particular scene? That's appropriate. You just don't want to do it too often. Just be careful that you're not overwhelming people with your process. Again, about every 5th blog, that's perfect.